spiritual media blog, and today I have a very special guest, Lisa Faremouth Weber. Lisa is a graduate of Northwestern University and Loyola Marymount University's Master of Yoga Studies program, is an advanced yoga therapist, and is a certified yoga teacher at the 500 plus level. She opened Heaven Meets Earth Yoga Studio in 2005 and has traveled internationally leading workshops and teacher trainings. She is a certified Chakradance Facilitator, Reiki Master, Shiatsu, and Sacred Lomi Healing Bodyworker. Lisa sits on several nonprofit boards, and she produced the 30-minute documentary film, The Future of Yoga, Your Pathway to Happiness, which is featured on Kino MacGregor's OMStars online yoga channel. Lisa, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Matt. I'm really grateful to be here.
Great. Well, to get started, tell us about the opening of Heaven Meets Earth Yoga Studio.
Oh, that's a long story, but it was a burning desire, and it started a long time ago. And I kept having these like feelings about opening a space, and I looked at different locations and nothing was quite right. And then I had a tragedy of 5 family members passing away within 5 years of each other. Maybe it was even 6 family members because one was my dog. But it started with first my grandmother, my grandfather, my father passed away, my brother-in-law passed away, my mother passed away, and then my dog, Izzy, passed away. And in the meantime, I had birthed 2 children. And at that point, it was like, if I didn't open my center, it was more painful than actually going through the pain of opening a new business. So I found my courage, and the stars aligned. And I was walking to dance class with my daughter, who was like under 2. And I found that the location. 2 years prior to that, I had been sitting in the hospital with my mother, who was a lung cancer patient, and I almost signed a lease on the space. And I had the real estate agent on this side, and then I had my mother on that side. And I had to just tell the real estate person, I can't do this right now. And I hung up the phone and took care of my mom. She came and lived with me the last year of her life. And then after she passed away, I found my location. And the universe gives us tests or like, portals to walk through. And like, when you make the right choice, the universe goes ding, it gives you a point, and sort of like, it starts to support the momentum around you doing what you're meant to do. So it's patience and perseverance. The other interesting piece of my story is that prior to opening Heaven Meets Earth, I did Julia Cameron's Artist's Way, and it was a 12-month process. And it was literally 1 year to the day of starting the Artist's Way course that I opened Heaven Meets Earth. And I had all of the people who were in that creative cluster supporting me. And I facilitate now the Artist's Way every year at Heaven Meets Earth because it's a big part of what our truth is. And it's changed so many people's lives.
Yeah, when I heard you talk about the Artist's Way, I went out and downloaded the book and started listening to it. I've just listened to the first chapter, but I'm very interested in learning more about it. So tell us more about it. It's a pretty intense process. So what was that like for you, and how did that affect your recovery and opening Heaven Meets Earth?
Yes. So, Julia Cameron lived in Chicago, and she was in recovery, and she wrote the book while she lived in Chicago. And really what it's like, it's in my opinion, it's like the next step after a 12-month recovery process. It's like walking into the light. So I was not necessarily an addict or had a drinking or drug problem. My problem was I had disordered eating. but I come from a European family where alcoholism was part of the culture. Nobody was a drunk, but more so maybe a functional alcoholic. So it was more about having an alcoholic culture or mindset or communication style. So I did go through my own process of like ACOA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. I did that process, and it didn't really align with me, because in those recovery processes, as good as they are, you continue to affirm the same thing. Okay. And really what as Einstein says, we can't solve problems using the same consciousness as we had to create the problem. We have to rise above the problem. We have to vibe up. And that's what the Artist's Way process does. The medicine of the Artist's Way is joy is the key. Joy is the key. And so part of our recovering our wounded inner child is loving ourselves, through the basics of getting enough rest, making sure you're hydrated, eating regularly, doing your movement practice, making good choices, hanging around people that are going to help you elevate yourself, but then tuning into joy. What is it that gives you energy? What is it that I'm getting tingles right now just telling you this? Like, what is it that lights you up? What colors do you like? What fabrics do you like? What food do you like? What music do you like? Do you like to be outside? Do you like to be in the mountains? And when you start nurturing your inner child that way, it's magical. It's infinitely magical. You can't dream of what the universe could unfold for you when you start tapping into your joy.
Wow, that's great. And so this was like a year-long process of you healing, recovering, and tapping into your joy prior to starting Heaven Meets Earth?
Yes, normally the Artist's Way is a 12-week process. You do it over
Okay.
12 weeks, but in this particular case, we did it over 12 months. And I like that because it creates more of a it's a discipline that it's not like a one and done, like you got to brush your teeth every day, you got to eat every day. It's the same thing with doing your practice and your process. So for one year, we would meet once a month, and in between, we would do our artist pages, our morning pages every morning, and we would take our spirit on a date every week. So your artist date. And that is you just with yourself doing whatever it is lights you up. So, one of my artist dates is one of my favorite places to go for lunch is Pier 290 in Lake Geneva.
Hmm.
And so, sometimes if I have a couple hours, I'll just drive out there by myself. I'll bring myself to lunch. It's right on the lake. It's beautiful. My spirit is just like, I just come drink in the beauty. And I might write while I'm there. I might stroll around while I'm there. And it's just an open hour to 2 hours for you to be in with you. And it's super healing.
That's fantastic. It sounds like that really gave you the strong, like spiritual and psychological foundation to start Heaven Meets Earth, which I think is so important. But I'm also curious when I hear people start business. I mean, there's a lot of like business and finances and practical and just a risk involved in going into that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how you balance like pursuing what gives you joy with trying to meet some of those practical and financial considerations of starting a business? I mean, in a yoga studio too. I mean, this is a big business.
Yes. So when I was single, I started a company. It was called Lisa F Incorporated. And I started that company to produce my exercise videos. So I first established that corporation in order to create I did a step video and a dance aerobics video. And in that process, I made a conscious decision to live very meagerly, very frugally in comparison to how my other friends were living. You know, upon graduating from college, people got nice apartments in the city and nice cars. And I made a decision just to live in a studio apartment and live as meagerly as I could, because I took all of my money to produce these exercise videos. And then I wrote my own PR releases. I wrote 300, I sent 300 PR releases out on my yoga videos, and I ended up getting reviewed in Shape magazine. I got compared to Jane Fonda and Paula Abdul. And then I got invited to go teach in Europe. And it was because of my own effort that I got invited to go. I taught in Italy, Amsterdam, Norway. And I also I was always a person who journaled. So I highly recommend journaling. And I had written down these goals and intentions. You know, when you write down your dreams and your goals, you're 3 times more likely to achieve them. And so I had written down that I wanted to go teach in Italy and so forth. And then, you know, one day I was coming home from a conference and I was in the airport, and I at that time, right, we had, you know, we had messages on our phones, you know, we had not voicemail, but, you know, how do you say, phone recorders at home. And I listened to my recording at home, and I had gotten invited to come to Italy to teach and to do a conference. And it was like, whoa, this stuff works. So my first recommendation for anybody who wants to create something or start something new or open a business is get ready to sacrifice. Get ready to sacrifice and be willing to do your life differently than what everybody else is doing. Because in order to open Heaven Meets Earth, you know, when everybody told me not to do it, don't open a yoga studio, you're never going to make money. And don't open a green, earth-friendly yoga studio. Don't put in bamboo floors, put in prego floors because you're stupid for spending extra money. But I had to do what I felt was right within me. And within me, it meant something to have a green, earth-friendly yoga studio created all with earth-friendly materials. Like, that meant something to me. And so I had to align with my values, with what I believed in, even though it wasn't the right business decision. And my intention with the studio was not to make money. That wasn't my intention. That's not why I did it. I set myself up so I could at least break even. So I kept my expenses very low. And I knew, I envisioned, okay, if I can have enough in the bank to finance this for 3 years, and that's how I set out, is if you're going to open a business, you need to be able to finance it for 3 years. If you don't have enough cash to do that, don't do it. Because that's one of the reasons why businesses fail. Prior to opening the business, I read the E-Myth. I studied the E-Myth. I did some other entrepreneurial coaching. So I definitely had my feet on the ground, and I was leading, yes, from my heart. I was making decisions intuitively, but I was also being smart in terms of my finances, because, you know, money is energy, and you need to be energetically aligned and energetically creating a strong foundation for success. Okay. And success in this paradigm, in the new age, means community collaboration, but we also have to also keep our feet on the ground and be able to pay our bills and pay our rent and pay our, you know, car payment and all of that. So that's how I did it.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, you know, again, Lisa didn't just open it, she has kept it running successfully for now 20 years or 19 years.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, tell us a little bit about that journey. What's helped to sustain it, especially during COVID when a lot of yoga studios shut down? I mean, what do you think has helped your studio be successful for 19 years?
So as a business, as an entrepreneur, you have to engage in daily, weekly, monthly, yearly self-reflection. So any accomplished CEO as well as our spiritual leaders like St. Ignatius Loyola will teach self-reflection. And you can call it Svadhyaya from the Yoga Sutras. But I would consciously reflect every year, okay, and reestablish my commitment to what I was doing. So about 5 years into opening Heaven Meets Earth, the business landscape changed, the market changed. Hedge funds got into yoga. Yoga became big business. And I had to decide if I was going to compete with the big boys or what I was going to do. And I decided to roll up my sleeves, just like the Gita teaches, the Bhagavad Gita, as you get in there and I don't want to say fight, but you stand up for what you believe in. And I believed in what we were doing at Heaven Meets Earth, so I was willing to work hard to keep going. But again, it requires your personal commitment to, if you turn right, if it's not working, you turn left. You know what I mean? Like you keep finding ways to get over the obstacle. You go over it, you go underneath it, you go around it, you get through it, but you don't let it stop you. So it's about your determination, your perseverance. When COVID happened, it was devastating. And I remember we closed on a Saturday, and the next morning I went to the yoga studio and I was like on the floor crying. And the story of Cinderella, right? When she is realizing she can't go to the ball and she's on her knees sobbing, that's when her fairy godmother appears. And that's what happened. So there I was at the studio on the floor sobbing. And all of a sudden, people came to the door and were knocking on the door and they handed me checks.
Wow.
And they're like, here. And I'm like, what are you
Wow.
doing? Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, no, just take it. We don't want you to close. And so, I remember this one dear student who handed me literally 3 checks for 3 different class passes. She said, just hold on to the money. I trust you. And that was my sign. And that happened with a couple of other people also. That was my sign that, like, look, the community doesn't want Heaven Meets Earth to close. So you got to keep going. And so, you have to keep listening, listen to what your community, the feedback you're getting, because you will know if you're on the right path by the feedback you get from your people, from your students, from your customers, from your clients. And then you have to figure it out. And so I did what I needed to do. I accepted the PPP loan. I accepted the Small Business Association loans. I had never, I never took a loan out before. But in this case, I believed that, we got to do what we've got to do right now. And this is what we've got to do. And that's how we made it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that, because, I think sometimes when people set out for a business, they have these grand aspirations, especially if it's in a spiritual growth or personal development. But they might not be prepared for some of the challenges that come along, financially or personally. So thank you for sharing that. And, as far as you mentioned, Heaven Meets Earth meeting a community need, one thing I like about Heaven Meets Earth is it really emphasizes whole mind, body, spirit, which I think also with an emphasis on the spiritual side of yoga. So, I mean, can you talk a little bit about just, some of your personal practices, teachings, experiences with yoga, and how you integrate, mind, body, spirit, especially the spiritual side?
Sure. And I might go off on a tangent here, Matt. So if I
Yeah.
don't answer the question, please redirect me. But so I was raised Catholic. My grandparents lived right next door to me. They used to go to church every Sunday, and they used to bring me with them. And the priest always favored them, and we would always get chosen to bring up the communion, the host, and the wine. And they were the type of people who never went out to dinner except for a funeral or a wedding. And each week on Monday, they would go visit the sick in the community. And when they were Italian, and they'd bake something, baked good, Italian baked good, and they'd bring it. That's how I was brought up. So I was brought up with
Hmm.
a grandmother who was like literally like Mother Teresa. Okay. She never wore pants. She only wore shifts. She just was like that. My father was from the island of Malta. Malta is the most Catholic country in the world.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think you can get divorced even now in Malta.
Interesting.
And when my daughter was 2, I was sitting at the yoga studio and I got an email that said honoring the goddess of Malta. And I thought to myself, you know, my dad never put those 2 words together in a sentence. He never said Malta and goddess. Okay. So I decided to go on this tour with my daughter, Anna. We toured all of the goddess temples in Malta. There's more goddess temples in Malta than anywhere else in Europe.
Hmm.
And the word for mother in Maltese is Om. Mhm. And I discovered, again, I'm getting chills. I discovered this is in my DNA. This is in my DNA. Like you know, because there's these thoughts about misappropriation and how can a white girl in Michigan open a yoga studio, right, and become a yoga teacher trainer. And I realized that, you know, is that there was something in my DNA. There was something in my DNA that caused me to follow this path. It was my purpose, my dharma, to share this heritage with the world from a sacred feminine space. And then through my studies, got to meet Eric Schiffman. And Eric Schiffman was a Jewish man who studied under Iyengar and Krishnamacharya, and then was introduced to A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles is the channeled voice of the Holy Spirit, or Jesus. And when I studied with Eric, I said to him, Eric, so now that Iyengar has passed away, who is your teacher? And he said, A Course in Miracles. And when he said that to me, I realized that, okay, so there's like another alignment here. And I asked Eric, I said, Eric, how do you feel about me having a picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus or the Blessed Virgin Mary in my yoga studio?
Hmm.
And he said, go for it. He said to me, if it's authentic for you, then it's the right thing to do. So I aligned with my truth, with my authentic truth, and share that with people, incorporating the teachings of yoga, which is really a practice. So for me, the embodiment of the yoga practice, the movement piece, the asanas, the postures, the flow, the vinyasa, the breath work, the chanting, all of these things healed me, healed my inner child. And now we know from science that chanting and singing heals your vagus nerve.
Hmm.
If you want to heal your vagus nerve, if you want to help yourself recover from trauma, movement, somatics, breath work, and sound are methods for healing. They're not hippy dippy, you know, crazy things to do. They really work. And I am here to show everyone, like, I don't take any medicine, nothing. I take no medicine. I
Hmm.
don't even take aspirin. I'm 62 years old. I've healed myself in many ways, but most importantly, I used to be a thyroid patient, and I don't take Synthroid anymore. And
Wow.
I'm not saying that that's the right way for everybody. I'm just saying that I can tell you from my own personal experience, and that's wisdom, that's discernment, that these practices work and that everybody should engage in yoga with
I,
with a good teacher.
I absolutely agree. I mean, it's definitely helped me out as well. And I think I heard you mention your soul's purpose or your dharma. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that and how you connect with that, how other people can connect with that?
Yes. So the Dalai Lama encourages everybody to stay grounded with how you were brought up. Okay, like I was brought up Catholic. That's true for me. Now, it's not to say that I don't study Buddhism or I don't study other religions. I do. However, I'm aware of what my roots are.
Mm.
And I think it's important for everybody to look at their ancestral lineage, because there's something there for you that's going to lead you to your dharma. So, my father's from Malta, and there's goddess history there. And part of my dharma is to bring forth these teachings of the sacred feminine. And so I encourage everybody to, rather than look negatively on your family and ancestral lineage, because obviously we all have, wounds, karmic wounds from our family. But I encourage everybody to flip that, okay, and look for the gold there. Look for the teachings. Look for the gifts, because that's going to determine your path. Our path, our dharma is what is uniquely yours and how can you share that with the world? Our purpose is to elevate ourselves and elevate others with our unique abilities. And your unique ability is what you do better than anybody else. Okay. And, maybe it's listening, maybe it's cooking, right? Maybe it's painting, maybe it's caring for people, or, maybe it's being an accountant. But everybody has a unique ability, and you want to stay close to that unique ability and share it with the world. There's a sutra I want to mention, Matt. It's called, it's in the second book of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It's 2.33, which is Pratipaksha Bhavana. Pratipaksha Bhavana means when you're troubled by a negative thought, flip it. So right now in our world, everybody is crazy about this word narcissism. Oh, this person's a narcissist and that person's a narcissist. And I was married to a narcissist, or my mother was a narcissist. And that all may be true. And acknowledging your hurts and your wounds is very important for healing. However, to really get through it, we have to see from a different perspective, forgive and accept and have compassion. Everybody's got trauma, and trauma makes us behave in a certain way. And if we can acknowledge that, hey, that person's acting like an a-hole right now, and it's their trauma response that's activating that behavior, how do I take care of myself? Well, maybe I need to move away right now from this interaction. The Yoga Sutras, your personal practice will empower you. It will strengthen your aura. It will give you the equanimous mind, the ability to say nothing is good or bad, everything just is, and stay and regulate your nervous system so that you can be a productive, happy, joyful, radiant being in the world. So to summarize, I'm very close to my religious roots, but I'm also myself. So I'll say I'm like Jesus in the lotus. And I feel like I'm free. I'm not letting the dogma of my religion hold me back.
Mm.
I'm looking at the gifts of that religion: forgiveness, caring for others. And Jesus taught, be like the children, be innocent like the children, right? I mean, there's so many beautiful things when you really start studying these ancient texts, whether it's the Bible or the sutras or the Upanishads, or even reading a book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now or The New Earth. So those, I could talk for hours on this.
No, I mean, this is really interesting, because a lot of people, they might be critical of their religion or their family is ancestry and really try to separate it from it. But it sounds like you've tried to integrate it into your spirituality by offering like compassion and love and drawing the good parts out of it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and embodiment is key. So movement, breath work, sound, singing, you know, these are tools for healing
And I mean,
and thriving.
Yeah, and I appreciate that perspective. I'm also curious about, what about people who have had um, painful experiences with their family of origin or painful experiences with organized religion? I mean, how can they integrate that into their spirituality or just into their life and feel more calm?
So, Arthur Brooks, who is the professor of happiness at Harvard, has written a wonderful book with Oprah, Build the Life You Want. And he talks about 4 pillars to happiness. And the first one is faith. So, yes, we have trauma wounds from organized religion. We have trauma wounds from our family. But we have to learn to forgive, forget, and have compassion and move forward, because faith is key. So, many people are suffering right now because they feel isolated and lonely and they don't have a relationship with God. So, in Julia Cameron's book and in the recovery movement, right, God stands for good, orderly direction, right? So God, or however you want to refer to this energy, whether it's nature, love, you know, find something to align with that is beyond yourself. I highly encourage a willingness to open your mind and open your heart to something. The second pillar is family, right? Faith, family,
Hmm.
friends, and purpose are the 4 pillars according to Arthur Brooks. So we need our family. We need community. It's absolutely vital. Organized religion, really what that is a community. Okay, so whether you have a religious community, a church or a temple, or if you go to a yoga studio, or maybe you're part of your alumni group. I'm also involved in my alumni group, Delta Gamma. I'm the treasurer for our Delta Gamma alumni group. It's a community. Community is absolutely vital. So find your community. Find a way for you to connect with love, God, nature, whatever you want to call it. Make that relationship primary. So every morning, every evening, connect with that energy somehow. Connect with your family. Even if, your mom did something wrong or your dad did something wrong, if you cannot have a relationship with your family members, then create relationships that are similar to family. Be a good friend and have values around friendship. The best way to have friends is to be a good friend. I have a difficult relationship with some of my family members, but I try my best. The Gottman Institute says for every negative interaction, you have to have 5 positives. So what you could do is, send them a card, buy them a gift, get them flowers, but nurture positivity in your relationships. And then, yeah, so I could keep talking, but I just encourage everybody to find compassion and forgiveness.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I like how
And
you're, yes, go on, sorry.
if you need help, I'm happy to help. Yes, I'm happy to help as a yoga therapist.
Oh, that's great. Well, I can certainly tell this is coming from your heart, and you have looked for many different avenues to spread the compassion and the acceptance, including making a film about yoga. So tell us about that. Tell us about your movie, the future of yoga.
Yes, so that took me 5 years to create. And
Wow.
again, it was an inspiration. I kept getting a download, I kept getting a download. The download started with just start capturing, start capturing. So that was the download I got. So as the teachers, as the healers would come to Heaven Meets Earth, I would film them. I would interview them. And the interview question was, what is the future of yoga? And they would tell me. And I captured them, I captured them. And then I got the inspiration, okay, now put this together. So then I started to actively put it together. I found somebody who helped me edit, and we would meet weekly and we started editing the film. And again, I self-financed it. And once I created the film, then I got the download that, okay, now you need to do film showings where you create a dialogue. Like I thought, people don't need just to go sit in a theater and watch a film and not talk about it. People actually need to watch the film and then have a dialogue about what they saw. So those were the film viewings that we created. I did one at the Wilmette Theater here in Wilmette. I did one at Soho House in Chicago. And we would bring people together. We would invite people to the film showing. We would show the film, and then we'd have a panel discussion with some of the people in the film, and we would let the audience ask questions and create dialogue. And it was incredible. And then I was working with Kino MacGregor on some things, and Kino invited me to put the film on OMStars. So the film is available at her online yoga channel called OMStars. So I hope everyone goes to the channel to watch it. I can send you a code if you want to send the code out to your community, or how they can they can join OMStars at a discount and see the film. If anyone wants to invite me to their town to do a film showing and a panel discussion, I would love that. But it's a great film.
It is a great film, and one thing I really liked about it is it incorporates like real people from diverse backgrounds and interests talking about how yoga affects their life. And I thought that that was really touching and powerful. I mean, do you mind? Was there any stories that really stuck out to you about how the people in there talked about how yoga affected them?
Yes. So the other thing I did was, as people would come into the yoga studio, I would ask them the question, and they would share their thoughts. So there was a guy that came in, and he said, I didn't realize I came in to do yoga for a workout, but I didn't realize how yoga was going to affect my mind and help me clear my mind and release my anger. And then another girl who was a breast cancer survivor says that it was the breath work that made the biggest difference for her. That she thought yoga was about the workout. And then when she realized that the breath work regulated her nervous system and helped her heal, she was amazed. We had pregnant women come in and talk about how yoga just took away the pain in their body. Some of the other stories, Rama Christian, who is a healer here in town, who recently released a book. Maybe you want to interview her, Matt. She just came out with a book about self-love through through loving and healing your inner child. But she said that we have to move from fear to faith, right? We have to move from fear to faith. And that the way yoga is going to change is that there's going to be less leaders and everybody is going to lead, meaning it's not about teacher student anymore. It's about the community coming together, supporting each other. So we all fly together. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, that is really exciting. And so it sounds like if people want to watch this film, they can go to the OMStar online yoga channel. And where is that?
Yes, or they can reach out to me.
Oh wait, what's the best way? I'll
Yeah,
write this
so
up. What's the
all you have.
best? Yeah, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at lisayoga@comcast.net. If you are interested in yoga therapy, or inviting me to your studio or your office to do a practice, if you'd like me to come in and do a film screening and a panel discussion, that would be so much fun. You can go see the film at OMStars. So if you just Google OMStars online yoga channel, you'll be able to find out how you can log onto that channel and watch the film.
That sounds awesome. I really liked it, and I would really encourage people to do that. We have covered a lot today, Lisa, and I feel like each of these topics probably could go on for like another hour, but I also want to just check in and make sure, was there anything that we didn't get to that you would like for us to go into a little more depth?
I would just like to encourage everybody to get grounded every day, several times throughout the day, by just stopping movement, maybe closing your eyes, maybe putting your hand on your heart, and doing a deep breath into the belly and breathing out. And then calling your attention to the center of your head. And that pulls your energy out of everyone else, and it allows you to be embodied and to have a good boundary around your energy field. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to, yeah, just realize that this love abides in us all and is always around us. We just need to connect to it on a regular basis.
I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of people, like, maybe they just go to a yoga class, which is great, but they don't, like you said, integrate it through their daily life and throughout the day, which I think can really make a big difference. I know that's one thing I've tried to do this past year is, like, it's like eating, we eat, at least we're supposed to be eating at least, 3 times a day with 2 snacks, but it's like, we should be doing the same thing for our spirit too, even if that's just, taking a minute or two, or, going on a 5 or 10 minute walk. What can we do to feed our spirit to keep us feeling grounded throughout the day? All right. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being here with us today. This was a lot of fun and really interesting. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Matt. Anytime.